you live for evolution. You live for expansion. And so all of a sudden, this project that you thought you didn't want to do has components in it that cause you to expand, and the expansion is the predominant thing. And in that predominant thing of experiencing the expansion, you forget about all the nitpicking things that you've been using as your excuse to not want to do it.
The taxes is pretty black and white. You know what papers you need to do, and you can put them on the list and do the pink circle. What about pieces of paper that are not so clear, like ideas for this or notes on that? And then I don't know where to put them. I don't want to throw them away, and if I might need them later, because this was a really good note. So how do I decide? And so now I'm overflowing with notes, and my husband is ready to, pull the rest of his hair out.
Anybody relate to that? So let's talk about what you're really reaching for. You're reaching for some stability and some calmness and some satisfaction and blah, 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 blah.
And clarity.
Well, that's right where we were going, but we're going to start from the other end of it. So confusion doesn't feel good, but there's something bubbling around that confusion. And what it is there's a feeling of lack of trust that what you need will be ready for you when you need it. And what happens when you start hanging around in the receptive mode a good deal of the time, you start noticing that you have great timing. You start noticing that you don't need to carry so many lists around and sort of crack the whip at yourself with these lists. You begin to notice that you receive impulses or inspiration at appropriate times or at good timing times. And you see that happening all the time. Don't you find that in your life all the time, where something like walking out of the door without your cell phone and not realizing that you don't have your cell phone, but then thinking, oh, I wonder if I turned the dishwasher on, and you go back in because that was the path of least resistance. So you get that thought, and then you go back in to see if you turned the dishwasher on, and there's your phone sitting right there on the cabinet, and you think, thank you for reminding me that I want to turn the dishwasher on, because I also want to pick up my phone. So there is a missing trust within you.
Those things are happening all the time to me.
So that's what you want to focus upon, that's satisfying. You want to begin saying things like, I've collected all of these pieces, and somewhere they are in the vibrational ethers. And here's the thing that we would really like you to know. Your inner being knows every single thing you've written on every single piece of paper. Your inner being knows why that subject was important to you. And your inner being also knows that you don't need that piece of paper in order to remember, because your inner being remembered it when you wrote it down. So you don't have to carry all of this clutter around with you. And these are the words that we want you to hear: to justify your existence. You don't have to carry that stuff around. You don't have to prove, because a lot of times the more stuff you carry around, then the more you justify where you're going. That hit you right in that soft spot, didn't it? You don't have to justify anything. But we know, you see, when you are a striver for excellence like you are, when you were born with this passionate desire to create your own reality as you were, you're going to like this so much because this is right at where it is. But you are like so many people who have come to believe and trust in the action part of it. And when you come to believe in the action part of it, and when you are so good at the action part of it, all that's happened here, what makes this such an important conversation, this is significant, and we're speaking specifically to you about it. You stepped into a realm where we're talking about these magnificent things that you are creating, and you've launched all of these big, wonderful intentions, and you're still trying to use the action part in order to accomplish them. And you can't. When you get big dreams, you got to leave that stuff behind, unless you just like doing it. Got to leave that stuff behind. Just got to leave it behind. You can Swiss cheese yourself right out of all of that. So now talk to us. Do you have a feeling of justifying your existence? Do you know who you're trying to prove it to? Here's a better question. What represents good achievement? If you stand in the world and you want to be seen as a good achiever, what kinds of characteristics are you going to try to foster within yourself so that as others look on, they will acknowledge that you're a good achiever? Tracy said to her mother, Tracy is Esther's daughter, Esther's Tracy's mother. Tracy said, because Tracy thinks she's Esther's mother. Tracy said to Esther one day, as Esther was explaining why she wasn't going to come over there by explaining how much she had to do, Tracy said, I wonder why you feel a need to explain all the time how much you have to do. And Esther said, it's how I justify my existence. She was kidding a little, but it wasn't very funny. This is the point we really want you to get. When you have intentions as big as yours are, action isn't going to cut it. You've got to get in the receiving mode and find other ways. Make sense? Esther's going to Swiss cheese herself right out of having anything to do with any of that eventually, because the truth of it is there are other things that are really more fun than that. But you can't find the things that are more fun than that until you're having fun with the things that aren't fun. Did you hear that? You have to have fun with the things that aren't fun before greater fun can come your way. Ooh. So if you're not having fun with stuff, you can never get out of that. It just surrounds you and buries you and gives you more to deal with. That was the breakthrough that you were looking for. And Esther too. Tell me more. You are action-oriented beings. Get over it. You cannot create through action enough to satisfy you. You know too much. It should be on the form you sign. I know that if I enter into this space and I hear this stuff, that I will create bigger dreams than I can do with action, and my whole life's going to have to change. I'm going to have to be a creator through thought rather than a creator through action. But we're not trying to get you to stop acting. We just want you to use inspired action rather than action to try to fix things.
And I feel, since I have been learning more and more from you, that I am every day.
And from life. We give you the basics, and then life confirms it to you.
Yeah.
Affirms it to you.
And I know that I'm doing a better job of attracting things.
For sure.
And so I feel like I know enough to be dangerous in that I know when I'm starting to slip into.
Yeah, because you got your vortex all full and you got the pipeline all filled up, and then sometimes more things are popping than you can deal with. Someday we'll have a seminar. We'll have it right here. This is such a lovely place. And we'll call it How to De-Manifest.
And I know when my thoughts are starting to slip away, and then I say, no, that thought, let's think about blue bottles and butterflies and feathers.
Let's say this in a better way now, rather than saying, no, I don't want to think about that thought. Instead, just ask yourself the question really often, hundreds of times in every day if you can. How satisfying is this? How satisfying is it? Is this a satisfying thought? You said something really key. You said, I'm getting good when I start to, and that's the key. When you start to, when you are first aware of a feeling of dissatisfaction, that's the time to become alert. In the first inkling of dissatisfaction, because you all, we love you so much, you've trained yourself to suck it up and be tough and pay the price and sacrifice, and others around you reward you for your sacrifice. They actually encourage you to suffer. If you get all tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you offer a service or something to someone because it's easy to you and it felt really good, many people around you won't think it amounts to very much because you didn't suffer enough. They want your gift to them to be proven to them by the suffering that you have, because people are kind of mixed up about how that all works. But it's not how the universe works. Suffering is not the key to anything that's good. And of course, you're way past all of that, but got onto that train of thought and wanted to clean that up right there. So now what?
I get great dissatisfaction when I have to think about dealing with the piles of paperwork.
All right, so you don't have to think about the barbecue contraption. You don't have to think about...
now you added another thing.
You don't have to think about the piles of paperwork and make that thought satisfying. You just have to think about something that is satisfying. And the piles of paperwork will take care of themselves. That really is what we're talking about. You just have to find something that's satisfying. And we know for sure there's a whole bunch of really satisfying things that would be easy for you to focus on. But there's something in you and in almost everybody else that makes you think that you've got to make that different than it is, when all you got to do is focus upon something that makes you feel good. See, Esther has a choice. She could not do the Swiss cheese process. She could delegate every single action thing that she does in the whole world to someone else. So why would she do anything? Because that's where satisfaction is. You have more satisfaction when you're flowing towards something than when you're just sitting with nothing to focus upon. Life comes to you. Eat it up, chew it up, enjoy it, let it evolve. When you find ways to let the detailed aspects of your life please you, you've got it made. But if you're sitting around and you just got a handful of things that need to manifest before you feel good, you don't have it made. You're in deep doo-doo. Because first of all, those things can't come until the smaller things have come. And life isn't about the big things. Life is about the small things that are coming in every moment of every day. Yes? Do you feel moved at all? Do you feel moved? Are you all worried about her big piles of paper? You can see them though. Esther had a friend long time ago, and Hurricane Camille took their house away. And he said, first time we've ever been caught up on the paperwork. He also said, it didn't matter anyway. It didn't matter anyway.
The emotional attachment to the papers or to certain memories that I just want to release. I feel like that's what's holding me in that space of not.
There are two ways to approach this. One is, as we said, distract yourself. And the other way is to find some more pleasing way to do it. In the Ask and It Is Given book, there's a process that was written by us for exactly this purpose. And it's called Clearing Clutter for Clarity, which is sort of what you're looking for. And our encouragement was to go to the office supply store and buy a bunch of baker's boxes. Most people start with about 20. And set them in a room and stand in some room that is particularly problem to you. And then approach the boxes and say to yourself as you pick up each piece of something, is this something essential to my experience or not? And if it's not something that you are going to need in the next week or two, then decide that you're going to put it in one of these boxes that you have spread out. Now, here's the key to making this work. The idea is not to do the sorting, because that's how you get bogged down and never get anywhere. Your idea is to clear it. But the reason you don't clear it is because you don't want to lose track of it. And you've done that before, where you open a drawer, you open a room, and you shove things in, and then you can't find them. And so don't want to do that anymore. You want to be able to get your hands on the things that matter. And so you put things in a box. Esther said, red bikini, haven't worn it in 25 years, box number 1. When you put it in the box, make a note of it into a recorder. Esther wrote a computer program for herself where she writes box number 1, and she just puts what's in it, and the program will sort. But a Wheeldex or a 3x5 card would be just as well. But to make it go fast, speak it into a recorder while you're doing it. So pile of magazines, looks like most of them are about decorating ideas. You could even speak this into the recorder. Box number 2. Then as you're looking around, anything else that's sort of kind of like that, put that in box number 2 too, and write it down. And in a very short period of time, shorter than you have ever seen in your experience, you will clear that room of clutter. And every single piece of it will be known by you or known by this recorder about where it is. Now, you might want to, maybe while you're watching television, or maybe while you're in bed looking for something pleasant to do, that might be when you listen and just write it down. Write the box number and write what it is. Alphabetize it in some way that you can find it. And so now, before you know it, you could do everything in your life in a few hours a day in less than a week. Then what you've got a stack of boxes, maybe along one wall in one room, or maybe along a garage wall somewhere, where everything that matters to you, you know it's right there. So you're not worried about finding it again because you know it's right there. And the recorder or the Wheeldex or the computer program knows right where it is. Esther was amazed at how infrequently she ever looks for anything in any of those boxes. She never really needed most of it anyway. But she just felt like she wanted to know where it was in case she needed it.
So the emotional aspect of it is more what I'm reaching for assistance.
Tell us more.
The emotional tie, not just to paperwork, but the same way that there's excess paperwork on my desk, I feel like it's that way with memories and thoughts in my head.
So all of this time that we haven't even been talking about anything that's physical, you just gave us crap? examples?
No, those are for real.
All right. As you solve some of that, the clutter that's in your mind will dissipate. That's why the process says clearing clutter for clarity.
So
The process
So the
is-
one is going to help the other.
Clearing clutter will help clarity, because in winning that battle, the other battle will cease to exist as well. But we want to be very clear about something here. There are easier ways to do everything than through action. And that is, when you meditate and quiet your mind, your vibration rises, and that stuff's just not bothering you for a while. And next time it bothers you, then find a way of meditating, and you can go about this in whatever way that you want to. Esther likes her stuff. She likes to know where stuff is just in case she needs it. It's got an airplane hanger, no airplane in it, but there are lots of shelves and lots of boxes, and she knows what's in every one of those boxes, or knows that she could know what's in every one of those boxes. And even though she never needs anything in every one of those boxes, somehow it's satisfying to know what's in every one of those boxes. And we would like you and her to acknowledge that you've got an inner being that knows what's in every one of those boxes, and will show you anything that's important to you. We're not talking about the literal piece of paper. We're talking about the path of least resistance to everything that you want. This is what this subject has been about the whole time, and we are appreciating having this conversation with you, because everybody's relating to it in some way. Your inner being absolutely, unequivocally knows where you stand in terms of what you have so far realized into manifestation. Your inner being knows where you stand in relationship to everything that you want, and knows what your path of least resistance is to it. So we could have 1,000 conversations on 1,000 different ways that you could feel 1,000 times better on 1,000 different subjects. In other words, we could go on and on and on and on and on. In fact, we have, about all of those subjects. Or we could convince you through endless antics that when you're in the receiving mode, you always know what to do. You feel good, first of all. You have clarity. Isn't it interesting? What you want is clarity, and meditation will give you clarity, but you feel like you need to do all of these other things, and we've supported you in many of them in order to get to clarity, when really all you got to do is meditate to get clarity. And so what you should say, and what Esther should say, is, really, Abraham, you gave me a process that caused me to organize myself. Do you know how many boxes Esther has in her hanger? She's in the 500s. She's in the 500s. She's been carrying stuff around her whole life. She's in the 500s of her boxes. You mean to tell me, Abraham, that I didn't have to sort 500 boxes? All I needed to do was meditate? Yep.